that's okay. Just a reminder that I will say it again for people who come on the call, but when we come on the call, we can say who we are and our organisation. That will help with the live stream if we're getting there, Adam, but I'll start anyway. So the takeaways from last week, just a little bit of a recap, so just in case we changed anything, was that we, if that's okay, just a reminder that I will say it again, we drop that back now, but when we come on the call, I think that was in Douglas's call, so I'll let weekly comments, I'll let him carry on with that. It says more discussion needed around community rewards. I think that's on the agenda today, so we'll let that one go, and I think that one's covered. This is an interesting one. It's just something I think I mentioned, which is about asking for more discussion agenda today in the general chat on Slack, and I think that's probably something that we can keep building on. This idea of trying to get as much discussion in Slack rather than coming onto the calls. I think that was something that we talked about. The rewards group doing a great job. I think that's be coming back to that as well. And again, asking for more discussion. In general chat on Slack channel. Tip 6 in Slack. Tip 6 to go into Slack with Ethereum airdrops. It was something that Jan spoke about. I'm not quite sure whether that's gone this week, and it's not on the agenda, or nobody's put it on the agenda for this week. So that's something that we may have to return to at some time. And then there's this notion of what that was the next speaker. So we're sort of there really, and I was hoping that we'd got everybody on the call to make a start on the agenda.
Hey Jim, I wanted to point out, I just heard from Douglas and he's having internet issues. He's trying to get on right now, but I don't know exactly when that'll be.
Okay, thank you, James. I've just seen him pop up in my gallery, and it looks like he's going to savvy fall. So, are you with us, Douglas? Call in Douglas. Call in Douglas.
I am. I gave up on my internet issue and just joined on my phone. So, sorry, it'll be a little harder to follow a few things, but generally, you got me.
Okay, well, I've been through our general takeaways, and I've asked people to say who they are. I'm Jim from EOS UK. When we come on the call, a little heads up about being as professional as we can. I think we've had quite a few views of these calls, and I sort of see in the odd Telegram chat about these calls and how people are viewing them and how people are looking at them. And I think we are, I think we sort of must realise that we're open to the public and open to public scrutiny, as is all our blockchain. So if you want to take it away, Douglas, we always come to you for sort of item 3, which is the weekly report, or heads up on what we said, and if you want to add or take away for what's coming up this week. Douglas.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Hi, Douglas Horn, GoodBlock. This has actually been an amazing week for us at Telos. We have we continue our trend every single day. A new member, or at least one new member, joins our group from outside, and I think I want to start with that because it's so important to show that we are truly an open group and that we're constantly being joined by new people who are excited about what we're doing and want to join so much that they would actually do work to join us. So I'm very happy about that. Some really big things happened this week. One is that our version of the Constitution, which we call the Telos Network Operating Agreement, has gone through our initial governance committees, bubbled up to the general group, and is now out for people to look at. Obviously, this is an early stage document. It's meant to be viewed and changed by the community, but the sooner we get this out there, the better. And very happy to have this out, and we've already had some really good feedback on this. We had several days ago, towards the end of last week, or the beginning of this week, we had an article come out on CoinDesk about the various EOSCO forks that are coming out, and it specifically called out Telos as the most organized and having the most momentum. So and spoke to some very nice parts about what we're doing. So that was actually a great boost. It's been picked up several places, and I'm sure we're all hearing a lot about that. Development and testnet operation has been going great. Stage 1.1 has been extended for a few times, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that the largest reason for that is that there was why we didn't just jump right to stage 2 is that there were problems with the EOSIO code versions 1.1.1 through 2 through 3 that had some problems with micro forking and other things that we chose to hold off on until those were stable, because there were some strange instabilities, and we thought it was more productive for us to work through those. We have worked through a lot of stages. The stage roadmap, by the way, has been expanded, but we're working through things like that are ahead of schedule, like replay protection, which I'm very happy. We're almost ready to announce that that's fully solved. We on Telos came out with a number of things for EOS going forward, including leading the discussion on how key prefixes should be used basically for all the future. And a lot of our some of our changes have been discussed and even accepted into the EOSIO GitHub. Lots of great things. I could go on and on, but let's just say this has been a great week, and we have a really great week ahead as we move on in the next couple days to stage 2, to fully having tested and implementing rotate BPs, which is a core promise that we made and has been very technically challenging, but it's going to be very rewarding because it's almost done, and just so many great things ahead. So I'm gonna leave it at that and hand it back off to the actual working group chairs. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Douglas. Thanks for that. So as we try to work this system up, sorry, Roger, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just going to pull up one of those points you mentioned there, Douglas. Did you just say that some of the code from Telos has been accepted into EOS for the first time? Did I hear that right?
That's my understanding. So there's been and let's talk about that in the chat let's let the chairs of each of those working groups talk about that. I think that Marlon or Peter can discuss that. But yes, that is already happening, and frankly, Roger, I think we can accept that. We can start expecting that to happen with frequency. Actually,
yeah, good. It's a landmark moment, though, I think. So I just wanted to make sure I'd heard that correctly. Brilliant, good stuff.
Maybe. Well, that sounds great. We'll hopefully hear more about that as we're going down the line. Okay, then. So what we're trying to do with these calls, and I hope everyone realises that it's basically an update from the working groups. And if you want to say something or you have an update, if the chairs or whoever is delegated to put something under your section in the agenda, then I will come to you and come down it. But if it's empty, I'll just skip through to the next person, and that gives us an attempt to get out to do our 1 hour 15 agenda time. So if we go to the bounty system, and I'm going to look at Rob or James to take us away on that, please. Thank you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Rob from EOS Detroit, chairing the bounty system with James. So we had a meeting last Friday. The pie slicing app is underway. I've been slightly waylaid, so I haven't pushed any updates to that, but you can follow the code update on GitHub, and I'm going to add that link to the chat for anyone on the live stream. So that's going good, and then there's a lot of forward progress on the compensation rate planning with the compensation consultants. There's another compensation consultant, so there's actually 2 that James is working with to get advice, and one of them has already generated what looks to be a useful report that we could use to sort of visualize the breakdown. So that's good. We can definitely use their advice there. And yeah, so that's basically where things are at. I was trying to get the MVP deployed by this meeting, but I missed that. So I'm adjusting that deadline for myself to Friday. So I'll have the week to work on it. And that's it.
Okay, thanks for that. James, you want to add anything, or is that all good now?
Work on it.
No, we talked as Rob was going to talk about our group.
Okay, thank you. Okay then, so we want to drop down to Daaps Outreach. Justin or Sukesh, is anybody here on that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Justin from Infinity Block here and lead of Daaps Outreach. We had some discussion yesterday in the Daaps Outreach meeting about the fact that many of us are like participating in, a few different outreach groups across Telos, and so we're going to have some rewards to potentially build Daaps, and the idea is that it's going to be a really great opportunity for people within the group to release like headliner Daaps for Telos that will really push our momentum forward early on. So if anyone has any great ideas that they're pushing around, definitely try and put something together for early on in the launch, and maybe we can have some announcements about various Daaps people are working on. I think there's a real potential to build some great Daaps with really good tokenomics and can really excite the public about Telos. That's it. Okay,
thank you. Thank you, Justin. I think I was on that call yesterday. I do drop on quite a few of the calls, so I hope that's okay with everybody. Try and keep abreast of what's going on. It was my take on that, Justin, that it was this, that we wanted to really flag up the fact that people on this call and people with teams behind them can be using the Telos that we're earning to actually use that to finance Daaps when they go live. I think that's something that's something interesting that we can be thinking about.
Yeah,
so, thanks for that. So I'm going to skip down then to external comms and email facilities updates. Beth or Roger, please.
I'll jump in, shall I, Beth? I'm not sure where you are, but you're there. There you go. Well, just on this one, we're still waiting to get this set up. We seem to have come up with a solution. So, Douglas, I think you'll know that that's with you and your guys at the moment to implement. Having worked with Sukesh this week to try and find a nice solution that will enable us to work collaboratively in an inbox where we can all see the responses that people have sent in and then that the team have replied to. So, we're very close to having that set up. That's the update there.
Okay, thanks, Roger. I think we've lost Douglas on video, but he might still be on audio, so we'll see what happens with that. Okay then, so governance, I've got Adam. Can you jump in on that? Is that your bag? Okay, thanks for that, Adam. I think, sorry, carry on. No, okay. So I think it's good that if we look on the calendar that we've managed to get all our meetings not clashing now. It means that they are heavily loaded on a Friday, and they are heavily loaded on a Friday evening for me. So I'm not sure that I will be able to go to all of those. But the mornings for a lot of guys, but the evenings for me. So that means a bit of a night shift. But I'll see what I can do. When we talk about the draft constitution, I take it we're still able to all contribute to that and move that around. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's the whole point of getting it out there is that rather than waiting for a perfect document, we are going to create the most perfect document we can through interaction with our own group and also with comments from bringing in comments from the community, right? That's the best way to do this. And rather than try to get the document as good as we possibly can before showing it to people, I think that's a false approach. I think it's better to just get it out there. So it's a starting point. Thanks for giving me the chance to reiterate that. And also the fact that there are there's 2 points. There's 2 ways that we can address it, right? Some is just the overall structural, hey, this approach is crazy. And some are along the lines of, hey, this is fine, but why are we talking about, 3 years when we should be talking about 2 years? So both are going to occur, but let's just get this out there. So we're talking about it, and so the public's talking about it, and we will also be the governance documents are a system of documents, starting with the operating agreement, also including the minimum requirements for BPs and arbitrators, the reg producer and reg arbitrator contracts that are basically the human language parts of the Ricardian contract, showing what they need to what everyone who registers is going to adhere to, and what the penalties are for not adhering to it. So it's going to be an ongoing process, but the goal is to get these out there as soon as possible, and that's what we're approaching by pushing them out. They're not perfect documents. Let's just make them as good as we can.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Douglas. So are they available on Slack for us all to find the news? Is that the idea?
So because these are governing documents, some initial discussion that we landed on was we're going to put them on, host them on GitHub, because we believe it's the most professional. It's the best for version tracking. People can make pull requests to those documents, and we can update them or not. I think it's the best for something that's going to have wide input. I think GitHub is best. So that's where they're all going to live, in the tips section of the GitHub.
Okay, thanks for that, Douglas. Thanks for clarifying that. And also that does, I think, using GitHub gives us a real kudos within the community, because it's what people use in the community, isn't it? So that's excellent. Great stuff for that. So going to move on to GRC. Azad, if you could come in on that. I see you've been doing a little bit of quick typing, so please carry on.
Right. Just on a related topic to the Constitution, we had a look at that one. I'm working on a project, quite a big one with EU funding. So we have our legal looking into that document as well. I assume that was okay. Well, there is client confidentiality anyway with us, so they will not be disclosing it. But if we are putting it on GitHub, so I assume that will be open to all for all to see. Am I correct with that one, with that assumption?
Yes. So these are public documents. They're absolutely. Especially, okay. So I think that there's a moment when things are in committee that we should keep them within the group. But anything that's out public, of course, it's a public document. You're right.
Okay. So we thought it was worthwhile for them to have a look, because we are working on this project. We're trying to onboard one of the universities and the ministries in one of those countries onto Telos. So there is a bit of work from our side in terms of explaining the advantages to them. But this is quite a complex area, and the governance and the risk management and the compliance all applies. So we will try to present the positive side of using a blockchain technology, as I said, to those interested parties. So one of my question would have been, do we need to include a reference to GRC in our constitution as something that whoever comes on board in future or any application that's being developed needs to follow all the GRC guidelines? and also whether, for example, the block producers will need to comply as well with the GRC requirements.
Today we have minimum requirements, so maybe that wording should be rephrased. The minimum BP requirements, so that should be rephrased for the GRC.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so because we are mainly working on the launch, so BPs are doing all the work in terms of getting ready for the launch. So again, as Syed said, do we want to rephrase that to block producer minimum requirements, or whoever is participating, then they will need to meet the minimum GRC requirements, which will include the BPs as well. I think we will need to discuss this, maybe not on this call, but probably have another call, or maybe towards the end of the call, we can decide on that.
Okay. Yeah, Douglas, carry on.
Have I lost the internet connection here?
Oh, I was going to say I fully agree that this is an offline discussion that we need. I would just to frame that.
In terms of an update from our side,
hang on, Azad, can you hang on a minute? Azad, can you hang on a minute for us? Douglas, can you just carry on for a second?
Yeah, I just want to make the point that yes, that's an offline discussion. The place for that, I believe. So I think this the process. Azad, is if you can give us a recommendation, but I think what we should look at is the minimum BP requirements and minimum arbitrator requirements as a place for any kind of GRC enforcement.
Sorry, I think I really have a bad internet connection.
Okay, so could I just ask Azad, if you can't hear us, if you drop off the call for a second, and I think that both Marlon and Syed and myself, we're all on the call for the GRC group. I think it was a month, I can't remember, I've lost track of days. It was this week sometime. And I think we can take what we've heard today from Douglas and move that call forwards. Would you agree with that, Marlon? Is that okay for me to say that, do you think?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm going to, unless you've got anything and your internet connection is okay, Azad, I'm going to move us forward, because I think we can take this forward through Slack and on the call, on the next GRC call. Okay?
Just one more. Yeah, just one more point. One of the things that we would like to have is a list of block producers that we can reach out, so representation from the BPs, and include them in the GRC call. That'd be good. Basically, the BPs who will be ready, who expect to be ready for the launch.
Okay, thank you. I think that's something that we can...
If that list is not already available.
Okay, well, I think that's something that I can organise, and I can hook up with Douglas and with the development team and bring that to a head for us. So we can have that at our next meeting for the GRC, and we can sort of move that forward. So yeah, thank you for that, Azad. We'll sort that out. Okay, then I'm going to move us on, if that's okay, to I'm going to move us on, I'm skipping a couple, to network maintenance. There's been a lot of frantic typing in the corner of my eye, so that's great, guys. If you guys want to carry on.
All right. Yep. Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry Huff from BlindBlocArt. We hit some milestones. We hit 3 million blocks on the test net. We're pretty much have everyone up and working, so we're no longer looking at having the lib being blocked. We're also going to start limiting the same rules on all the networks, where one producer per team, so that we know basically how many teams are out there that are active. We're going to try and get some developers to start stress testing our network, see what kind of load we can get. And let's see, we're going to probably restart the network with stage 2, because the work group has decided to put the new code in the current test net and test it first. then we're going to reset, because right now the voting is going to be off until we reset the testnet. But that's something we're going to wait until stage 2, and we're just going to relaunch. I think that's pretty much it. JT, anything?
Nope, that's it.
Wow, that's great, guys. Very concise. As
And
ever.
aloha from Hawaii.
Oh, aloha from Hawaii, indeed. As ever, I'm just going to ask if Douglas wants to come in and extrapolate any of those points, because Jerry is great at being very concise and maybe sort of making things very simplistic. And I just wonder if we're happy with that. Is that everything?
I personally am very happy with that trade in Jerry, and I wish that I had it in myself. But I don't. But I would say the one thing I think is we should note there is the goal in restarting is, if I'm right, Jerry, is just never to restart again. This would be our restart, and then after this, we could without anything unforeseen, invite Daaps in to come in and to a testnet that they don't expect would ever have to be relaunched until the actual mainnet launch. Is that the goal?
That is our main goal, yes.
So
Okay.
we're trying to create a situation. So right now, there's been a couple of little outstanding things, including some of these issues that I mentioned before about getting wallets on board, about replay protection, and small things like the prefix. And so we're getting these things handled so that wallets can fully support us, and so that this testnet never needs to start. And at that point, we have a number of actually really exciting Daaps on the sideline saying, "Tell us when to get on, so we don't have to get on and off and on and off." And that point is probably coming up right after that restart. So I think that's the big point that I'd extrapolate on.
Okay, thanks for that. Does anybody else want to come in? I just want to mention one thing. We've heard the word milestone a couple of times, and this notion of the code and 3 million blocks. Are we just, as a group, I'm just putting this out there, are we taking every opportunity, and are these the right things to sort of be saying to the wider community? And are we publicising these? Are the sort of things that we should be publicising through tweets, etc., etc.? I'm not quite sure. I'm just wondering if that's something that we can raise our profile within the community on. I'll sort of leave that hanging unless everyone wants to jump in on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they're all legitimate points. We definitely need to be publicizing them. I think it'll help when we, we've been manually rotating the BPs every morning, and so that everybody gets an opportunity to produce. Right now, we're seeing a little bit of attrition from people that got BPs up, and then now they've kind of abandoned the project, or they've no longer maintaining their boxes. So we're trying to filter those out. Going to ask that people only have one BP node on the test net, so that more people can produce. Because myself, I've got 2. I know that there's a couple of teams that have 3. So we're going to try to eliminate those, bring it down a little bit more concise, especially now that we're not at risk of not advancing the lib. But all of that said, yes, I mean, it's as public as it needs to be. I mean, we're fairly stable.
Okay, Douglas.
On that, I want to point out really quickly that the groups early on that put up 2, 3, 4 test nodes on the test net were our early heroes. They were not trying to there was a time when that was necessary, and now the going to just 1 per BP is actually a signal of our success as a network. We don't really the testnet is very secure with just 1 per BP. So, and then I would say to Jim, to your very good point, I think that communications between our outside comms and our network maintenance and our development groups, those are the most constitutionally distinct groups, probably, right? The people who are doing the sort of low level work, and the people who are telling the world about it. And I would invite those 2 groups to better connect, because what's happening is they're not I think things that are happening on the test net are not necessarily getting pushed out to the comms, because the comms are not like they need a little bit of explanation about why some of these things are great. And I think the test net people are probably not the best communicators. So I'm hoping that I'd encourage you both to integrate a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas. I just thought it was important to flag that up, and maybe we can pick that up in a general chat just to make sure that we're really getting any milestone, that we're sort of like getting it out there and sort of using a bit of a cliche, sort of all singing from the same hymn sheet, but pushing out the real positives of the project. Okay, then, so...
Beth actually had her hand up. I think she wanted to say something.
Beth, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I can actually just address that super quick. I think I'm the only person that's doing any of the social media implementation on this group right now. We have posted out several things about the testnet off and on as we are able to get that information. But I think it'd be great if people in those groups see something that is relevant, that they think would be really solid, to kind of just write a little blurb and drop it into the external communications, or actually the marketing and social media channel would be better. And then we'll pick up on it, because right off the top of my head, I don't know if we have crossover between those groups. So if you see something, drop it in marketing social media channel, and we will get it into the lineup to push out.
Okay, that's great. I think that was important, just to show that how our work will continue to evolve and change. And obviously all these channels are open for more people to come in. And I think the rewards, the community rewards, will enable people who are sort of social media people to be working there and getting rewards for that. So hopefully we can get more people other than just Beth involved. Yeah, Beth, carry on.
I would just say, in lieu of not knowing if we have crossover between those groups, if maybe one or two people from each of those groups could just kind of designate themselves to pull stuff, so that not everybody's dumping stuff or you're doing double duty. So maybe one of the chairs or somebody, you guys can decide on who would be the person to keep an eye out for content to drop on us. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's smashing it. It'd be great if we just did, sound a bit formal, but if we, it's like a standing order of everybody's agenda will be to drop anything for the group to suggest what we could put onto the social media channel. So that's great. Thanks for that. I'm going to move us on a little bit, and I've got some notes on translations up next. Does Chen, do you want to have a go at that, or Beth? Anybody?
Joost here. Yeah. Translation, not too many updates. We have many key languages covered. We are only looking for a French translator now. So if there's any volunteer, let me know.
Okay, thank you. Chen, do you need to add anything?
Yeah, sure. So basically this week the translation group is working well this week. So last week we translated the weekly updates. There is nothing much to update, except that we are having a more organized way of uploading the translations using Telos, G Drive, and Trello.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for that. Yeah, Douglas?
Sorry, quick question. So I know that we're doing a good job of getting the ongoing documents. I don't see a lot of the white paper translated. I know it's a monumental task. I think we have Korean and one other language in addition to English. Is there a way to get that on the roadmap? Because and then also going forward, the Constitution and another government, or should we wait until? How are we handling those big documents?
So is this the white paper? Is the final white paper?
I don't know. The goal with the white paper at this point is we are updating them so the white paper does not change unless we as a group here, if there's a tip that we vote on that changes the contents of it, and then we are updating it in that way.
So if there are not too many updates, I think we should try to push a bit harder to get the white paper translated to other languages. I think that's what we should try.
Yeah, we're having I'm having questions from groups in now China actually China and Korea have actually shown more interest, and of course with Korea we can we could push things out. But with China, it's and then a lot of other groups we want to reach. It's just hard to get it out without a white paper to show.
Right. As far as I know, Telos Canton, they are translating the Chinese white paper at the moment.
All right, heroes.
Beth, do you want to comment on anything?
No, I'll discuss this with my group offline. We already had a plan in place for this.
Okay, thank you very much. All right then, I'm going to move us on now because we sort of come to the end of the working groups. The working groups seem to be going really well, and we did say that we would start and end working groups as we need to. And it seems that no one's proposing any new working groups, but I've said something that Douglas wants to come in on. So
I'm sorry. Did we hit dev? I think there's a lot of notes under development that didn't get discussed.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah, they were added after I went past Douglas. I think we're going to have a bit of a moratorium on editing the document as I'm speaking. So it would be great if we could maybe do that an hour before, perhaps. I know it's difficult for you guys, or the night before. So yeah, okay. Should we go back to Dev and either Peter or who wants to take that away, please?
Hello. Sorry, I'm still playing catch up because I was gone for the weekend. Ed, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So on the dev side, we are on the final stage. I'd say we are testing more the rotate BPs, and we are close to finish this task. I believe maybe a couple more days to finish that, and then we will be able to deploy all of these master contracts with the inverse fold weight functionality, and also the rotate BPs and few others that you can see on GitHub. Yesterday we discussed on the call that if it would be a good idea or not restart the network. On my side, I said that would be a good idea, but maybe having a new chain just for dev test and validating our changes, and then later update our testnet today. We have some pros and cons on that. It's on the Slack channel, and yeah, it's pretty much it. We are progressing a lot this week.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a couple to that as well. So we also issued a pull request for renaming EOSD. We all voted that the new name should be EOSD. So that's in the GitHub, Peter. We issued a pull request to EOSIO's EOS.js ECC project, which is a library used by most of the wallets and tools in the ecosystem to support the dynamic prefixes. And that pull request was approved, merged, and published to NPM, which is a repository that all of the applications utilize. So essentially, any new or existing DApp that it integrates with the EOS JavaScript library will receive our code as well. We issued a pull request to Scatter to support Telos. They responded by creating a new fork branch, and Scatter will now, once it's released, support EOSIO-based forks, including Telos, utilizing the updates to the library that we asked the EOSIO team to support. And lastly, we made a lot of progress on the unit tests. So there were tons of failures there. So with the support of John at Telos Voyager, we managed to get a lot of those unit tests resolved. There's still a few pending, but we're making great progress there.
Okay, thanks for that. I mean, again, we're talking about huge developments here, aren't we? Which is massive for us. And things like the weighted voting is something that once we get that working, I think that's clear that we need to sort of maybe mention it to the community that we've done that. So I think that's fantastic. I'm going to, unless there's any other problems, I'm going to go down to item 5, which is the Telos Telos launch document. You did that deliberately, didn't you, Roger? So I wouldn't be able to say prerequisite. So do you want to take it away? Unmute, Rog.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, especially for the prerequisites. What a word. Yeah, I mean, it was just something that I think came up somewhere along the line, so I put the document together, but it's not really my work, because obviously most of it's taken from the white paper there anyway, but seems it's got my name next to it, so I'm speaking to it. But yeah, it's just, you know, in preparation for the go, no-go vote, that we sort of start working towards this through these items in this document, so that we can all sort of say, yeah, I'm happy that that's been done and we've all tested it. And so when we come to voting, we're clear about, you know, the functionality that we've created, or that you guys have created, because there's such a lot of work that you guys have been doing there. That's fantastic. Hats off to you, because nobody's really said that. That's really good work you're doing there. And so yeah, once all that's been done and tested, and we're sort of saying we're happy with these features that are prerequisite for go live, and stuff that we don't quite get around to can go on the on the list of would be nice to have. So that was really the point of that document.
Okay, yeah, Douglas, carry on.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Roger. Just want to clarify, one of the things we've been talking about this document that Roger started is to publicly surface it on the main Telos Foundation page as sort of an alternative to a countdown. When EOS did a countdown, they listed all the, that was just based on a time, and if you don't hit that time, it becomes a count up. And I think the way we have been discussing it, what we'd like to do instead is have a system where we have a visible checklist of all these things we are promising, right? And not just the technical side of whether we can, all these very important technical things which we're adding, but also ensuring that we have the arbitration and the ratify contract and our government documents somewhere where we think they're in a good shape. And also we're making promises about how we're going to allow people who've had their keys stolen under the old ERC20 and EOS launch thing, that we're going to create a process for them to come on board, and we're doing this. And so that as well, all these things are going to go feed into the go no go launch, to the point where we have a public page where something's red because there's a lot of work to do, yellow because it's we're almost there, and then green because we feel we've covered these. So that when it comes to the go no go launch, it's almost going to be just a theater act, because anyone should be able to look at exactly at that checklist, and if it's not all green, then we're not going to go. So I think we're going to take the document that Roger is working on and creating, and turn that into a public facing checklist project progress list.
Okay, thanks. James, did you want to chip in with anything on that?
Say that this is a living document, and as the work groups go along, they should be looking and making sure that if they come up with anything that we need for launch, they should be adding it to the list and talking about it. So this is something that this is a document that all the work groups should be paying attention to and adding to as we go.
Okay, so thanks for that. It's something that I did sort of ask about as well, because I did think that we want to make sure that we don't get the witch hunt nature of which VPs did vote no go or go, which sort of happened on the EOS launch, and we had launch parties, etc., which in the end were counterproductive. Yes, Jeremy.
Yeah, it becomes not a go no go vote. It's like, hey, it's all green, let's go. I said, hey, it's all green, let's go.
It takes out that sort of political element of it, doesn't it? And what I'm thinking is that these calls will morph, I think, more from the groups reporting. We might change the agenda system and just be going down each of the checkpoints, and then the groups will come together. So I think that might be maybe in a week or so we'll move to that. Yeah, Douglas?
And to Jerry's point, it also publicly reveals what we think these criteria are, so that if people in the community say, hey guys, you've been promising this all along and it's not on this checklist, we can go, oh, you're right, we should put this in the checklist, right? It not only keeps people informed about where we are on our prerequisites to go live, but it lets them weigh in on whether we have the right prerequisites.
Anybody else? Yes, Mark.
I just wanted to chime in that we have a lot of really important documents, somewhat scattered. Things have been radically improved with the Google Drive organization that recently occurred. But let's agree to reference there's a resources document that I can put into the resources channel where all of these other child documents can be linked to. So people know to reference that resources document and to maintain that resources document when any document of significance is created.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. Anything we can increase our effectiveness through our organisation, I'm sure we'll take that on board, and I'm sure Phil will make a note of that to make sure that happens. I've got we're at the end of any items, and we seem to have a record. We seem to have a record time with a time limit. We've got no in our time limit, so I'm pleased about that. I think that shows that we are working effectively in the working groups, and only stuff that needs to come to this call can come to this call. So I think that shows that we're working quite effectively. The time immediately the next call will be same time, 1500 UTC, and I believe that will be the 21st of August. Is that okay with everybody, or are we happy with this timings? Okay, well, all this to be said is thank you very much for your time and for your patience, everybody, and for your fantastic work that we're doing in the working groups. I will be popping up to show my face as much as I possibly can. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you in the working groups.
Aloha.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See you, everyone.
Yeah, guys, fantastic. Good work.
Everyone.